The Buddhist Secret to Inner Freedom. Stop suffering and let go. Have you ever wondered why, even when life seems to be going well, something inside you still feels unsettled? Why moments of happiness disappear so quickly, leaving behind another desire, another fear, another worry? Perhaps you've spent years searching for peace in success, relationships, possessions, or recognition, only to discover that the feeling never truly lasts. You achieve one goal, and almost immediately, your mind creates another. You solve one problem, and another quietly takes its place. It is as if the mind is constantly chasing a horizon that moves farther away every time you get closer. What if the greatest prison you have ever lived in was never built with walls? What if the chains holding you back were invisible, formed by your own attachments, expectations, fears, and the stories you repeat to yourself every single day? According to ancient Buddhist wisdom, suffering rarely comes from the world itself. It comes from the way we cling to the world, believing that lasting happiness can be found in things that are constantly changing. For more than 2,500 years, Buddhist monks have explored a different path. They did not search for endless pleasure or perfect circumstances. Instead, they sought something much deeper, a freedom that no disappointment could destroy, no loss could take away, and no external event could control. This freedom was not reserved for kings, scholars, or monks living on distant mountains. It was understood to be available to anyone willing to look within and understand the true nature of the mind. Imagine waking up without carrying the weight of yesterday's regrets. Imagine facing uncertainty without fear consuming your thoughts. Imagine being able to love without becoming trapped by attachment, to work without becoming a prisoner of success, and to experience life without constantly worrying about losing what you have. This is not an impossible dream. It is the direction pointed to by generations of Buddhist teachers who discovered that real freedom begins the moment we stop fighting reality and start understanding it. The surprising truth is that most people spend their entire lives trying to change the outside world while ignoring the inner world that shapes every experience. We believe that if we earn more money, meet the perfect partner, gain more respect, or eliminate every obstacle, peace will finally arrive. Yet history is filled with wealthy people who felt empty, powerful people who lived in fear, and successful people who remained deeply unhappy. External achievements can improve comfort, but they cannot guarantee inner freedom. The Buddha taught that suffering is not simply something that happens to us. It is something that grows whenever the mind clings to what cannot remain the same. Every relationship changes, every possession ages, every emotion rises and falls. Even our own bodies transform from one moment to the next. Trying to hold on to permanence in an impermanent world is like trying to grasp water with a closed fist. The tighter we squeeze, the faster it slips away. This does not mean that life is hopeless or that we should stop loving, dreaming, or caring. Quite the opposite. Buddhist wisdom teaches that when we release unhealthy attachment, we become capable of loving more deeply, living more fully, and appreciating each moment without fear. Freedom does not come from possessing everything. It comes from no longer believing that your peace depends on possessing anything. As you continue listening, you may begin to notice certain patterns in your own life, habits of thought you have never questioned, fears that quietly influence your decisions, and attachments that may be stealing your peace without you even realizing it. By the end of this journey, you may discover that the freedom you have been searching for has never been outside you. It has been waiting patiently beneath the noise of the mind, ready to emerge the moment you choose to let go. Before we continue, if these teachings resonate with you and you're seeking more timeless Buddhist wisdom to bring peace and clarity into your daily life, consider subscribing to Buddhist Wisdom. Join our growing community, and if you're ready to begin this journey, leave a comment below with the words, "I choose inner freedom." Sometimes, a single conscious decision is the first step toward a completely new life. As you begin to understand this path, an important question naturally arises. If attachment is the source of so much suffering, why is it so difficult to let go? Why do we continue holding on to people who have already walked away, to painful memories that no longer exist, to expectations that reality has never promised to fulfill? The answer lies in the way the human mind has evolved. The mind constantly seeks certainty. It wants to predict the future, control every outcome, and protect itself from pain. Whenever something brings pleasure, comfort, or a sense of identity, the mind quietly whispers, "Don't lose this." And when something threatens that comfort, fear immediately appears. This cycle becomes so automatic that most people never notice it happening. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every day for years. At first, you feel its weight, but over time, your body adapts, and you forget that you're carrying it at all. Only when you finally set it down do you realize how exhausting it truly was. In much the same way, emotional attachments become so familiar that we mistake them for part of who we are. We say, "This is my anger, my anxiety, my success, my reputation, my relationship, my possessions." Little by little, the boundary between who we are and what we cling to begins to disappear. Ancient Buddhist teachers often reminded their students that attachment is not the same as love. This is one of the greatest misunderstandings in human life. Many people believe that letting go means becoming cold, distant, or indifferent. They fear that without attachment, they would stop caring about the people they love. But true Buddhist wisdom points in the opposite direction. Attachment says, "I need you in order to be happy." Love says, "I wish for your happiness, whether it benefits me or not." Attachment is rooted in fear. Love is rooted in freedom. Attachment tries to possess. Love allows space. When your happiness depends entirely on another person, every disagreement becomes a threat. Every change becomes frightening. Every absence feels unbearable. But when love grows from inner peace rather than emotional dependence, it becomes lighter, healthier, and more compassionate. You stop trying to control others because you no longer need them to complete you. Instead, you appreciate them for who they are in this moment, knowing that everything in life is constantly changing. This understanding extends far beyond relationships. Many people become attached to their careers, believing that their value depends on their achievements. Others attach themselves to wealth, constantly worrying about losing what they have earned. Some become prisoners of their own image, spending years trying to maintain the approval of strangers. And perhaps the strongest attachment of all is the attachment to the idea of ourselves, the identity we have carefully built over a lifetime. We all carry stories about who we think we are. I am successful. I am a failure. I am respected. I am not good enough. I always have bad luck. I must prove myself. These stories become invisible prisons. Once we accept them as absolute truth, every experience is filtered through them. We stop seeing reality as it is and begin seeing only the version that confirms what we already believe. In this way, the mind creates suffering long before any external event occurs. The Buddha encouraged his followers to observe these stories instead of immediately believing them. Notice how thoughts appear without invitation. One moment, the mind is peaceful, and the next it is replaying an old argument, imagining a future disaster, or comparing itself with someone else. If thoughts come and go like clouds across the sky, can they truly define who you are? This simple question has the power to transform your entire perspective. You are not every thought that passes through your mind. You are not every emotion that visits your heart. You are not every fear that appears during difficult moments. Thoughts change. Emotions change. Circumstances change. Yet something within you remains capable of observing all these changes. The more you strengthen this quiet awareness, the less control your attachments begin to have over your life. A Buddhist monk once compared the mind to a clear lake. When the wind is strong, the surface becomes restless. Waves distort every reflection, making it impossible to see clearly. But when the wind settles, the water naturally becomes still. The lake does not force itself to become calm. It simply stops resisting its own nature. Your mind is much the same. Peace is not something you create from nothing. It is something that gradually reveals itself when you stop feeding every fear, every desire, and every unnecessary struggle. Beneath the noise has always existed a place of remarkable stillness. The journey toward inner freedom is not about becoming someone new. It is about removing everything that prevents you from seeing who you have always been. And perhaps that is the greatest secret of all. Freedom is not waiting for you somewhere in the future. It begins the moment you stop searching for yourself in the things that were never meant to define you. There is an ancient story told in many Buddhist traditions about a young seeker who traveled across mountains, forests, and deserts in search of enlightenment. For years, he visited respected teachers, memorized sacred texts, practiced difficult meditations, and disciplined both his body and his mind. Yet despite all his efforts, he remained restless. Every time he believed he had finally reached understanding, another question appeared. Every answer gave birth to another search. One day, exhausted and discouraged, he met an old monk sitting quietly beneath a tree. The monk seemed to possess nothing. His robes were simple, his bowl was nearly empty, and his face carried the peaceful expression of someone who had nothing left to prove. The young seeker asked, "Master, where can I find enlightenment?" The old monk smiled gently and replied, "Who is searching?" The young man began to explain everything he had learned over the years, but the monk simply listened without interruption. When the young seeker finally finished speaking, the monk picked up a handful of sand and slowly opened his hand. The grains slipped effortlessly through his fingers until nothing remained. "That," the monk said softly, "is how peace arrives." The young seeker looked confused. "I don't understand." "You have spent your life trying to grasp wisdom," the monk answered, "but wisdom cannot live inside a closed hand." This simple image reveals one of the deepest truths in Buddhist philosophy. We often believe that happiness is something we acquire. We chase more knowledge, more possessions, more experiences, more achievements, hoping that one more accomplishment will finally complete us. Yet every new acquisition eventually becomes another attachment that demands protection. Think about how often your mind says, "Once this happens, I'll finally be happy. Once I earn more money. Once I find the right relationship. Once people respect me. Once my problems disappear. Once I become successful." These promises seem convincing because they always point toward the future. They keep the mind running endlessly, believing fulfillment is just one step away. But if you look honestly at your own life, how many of these promises have already been fulfilled? And after reaching them, how long did the satisfaction truly last? The Buddhist path does not tell us to abandon our dreams or stop improving our lives. Instead, it asks us to examine the expectation hidden beneath those dreams. Are we pursuing something because it expresses our values and allows us to contribute to the world? Or are we secretly hoping it will fill an emptiness that only inner understanding can heal? This distinction changes everything. Two people can work equally hard, yet one is consumed by anxiety while the other remains peaceful. Two people can experience the same loss, yet one is destroyed while the other slowly finds acceptance. The difference is rarely found in the external event itself. More often, it lies in the relationship each person has with reality. One resists what cannot be changed. The other learns to move with it. Imagine standing in the middle of a river during a powerful current. If you fight against the water with all your strength, exhaustion quickly follows. But if you understand the current, adjust your movement, and stop resisting every wave, something remarkable happens. The river has not changed, yet your experience of it becomes completely different. Life flows in exactly the same way. People will change. Loved ones will come and go. Your body will age. Success will rise and fall. Seasons will pass. Nothing remains exactly as it is. The more deeply we accept this truth, the less energy we waste arguing with reality. Acceptance is often misunderstood as weakness or surrender, but Buddhist wisdom sees it differently. Acceptance is the courage to stop fighting what already exists so that your energy can be directed toward what truly matters. This is why Buddhist monks devote so much time to observing the present moment. Not because the present is always pleasant, but because it is the only place where life is actually unfolding. Anxiety lives in imagined futures. Regret lives in remembered pasts. Peace is discovered only in the reality of this moment. Take a slow breath. Notice the feeling of the air entering your lungs. Feel your body resting exactly where you are. For just a few seconds, there is nothing you need to become, nothing you need to prove, and nowhere else you need to be. This simple awareness may seem ordinary, yet it is the doorway through which countless Buddhist practitioners have begun transforming their lives. The mind that constantly wanders becomes quieter. The heart that constantly fears begins to soften. Little by little, the illusion that happiness exists somewhere else starts to dissolve. If these reflections are helping you see life from a new perspective, take a moment to support this journey by liking this video. It helps these timeless teachings reach more people who may be searching for peace just as you are. And if this message speaks to your heart, write in the comments, "I choose peace over attachment." Sometimes, the smallest commitment becomes the beginning of the greatest transformation. Because the truth is this: the door to inner freedom has never been locked. Most of us have simply been pushing against it while it quietly opens in the other direction. The old monk's words stayed with the young seeker long after they parted. At first, nothing seemed different. The mountains were still steep. The roads were still long. His questions had not disappeared overnight, but something subtle had changed. For the first time, he stopped chasing every answer and simply began observing his own mind. As he walked, he noticed how quickly a single thought could transform his entire experience. A bird sang in the trees, yet his mind was thinking about yesterday. The morning sun warmed his face, yet he was worrying about tomorrow. The fragrance of wild flowers surrounded him, yet he barely noticed because he was replaying an old disappointment. It suddenly became clear that life had never abandoned him. His attention had. This realization is one of the most profound discoveries in Buddhist practice. We often believe that suffering is caused by the events around us, but much of our suffering comes from being absent from the only moment we ever truly possess, the present one. The mind has a remarkable habit of traveling through time. It revisits painful memories that cannot be changed and imagines futures that may never arrive. While this ability helped humans survive, it also became one of the greatest sources of unnecessary suffering. We create arguments that never happen. We fear failures that never come. We replay conversations that ended years ago as though they were happening again. Meanwhile, life quietly continues without our full presence. The Buddha compared this wandering mind to a monkey swinging endlessly from one branch to another, never resting, never satisfied, always searching for something else. One branch is regret, another is desire, another is fear, another is comparison. Before long, the mind has traveled thousands of miles while the body has remained in exactly the same place. Have you ever noticed how exhausting that can be? Sometimes you wake up already tired, not because your body lacks strength, but because your mind has been carrying invisible burdens for so long. Endless expectations, silent worries, imaginary conversations. unfinished stories. The weight is real, even though no one else can see it. This is why Buddhist meditation is far more than simply closing your eyes. It is the practice of returning home to yourself. Many people imagine meditation as the complete absence of thoughts. Then, when thoughts continue to appear, they assume they are failing. But Buddhist teachers have never expected the mind to become instantly silent. Instead, meditation teaches us to change our relationship with our thoughts. Imagine sitting beside a peaceful river. Every leaf floating on the water represents a thought. One leaf carries a memory. Another carries fear. Another carries excitement. Another carries anger. You could jump into the river and chase every leaf until you are exhausted, or you could simply remain on the shore, watching each one pass naturally downstream. This is awareness. Thoughts still arise. Emotions still appear. But they no longer control every decision you make. Little by little, a remarkable space begins to emerge between the experience and your reaction. Someone criticizes you. Before, you reacted immediately. Now, you pause. A difficult situation appears. Before, panic took over. Now, you breathe. Someone disappoints you. Before, resentment stayed for weeks. Now, you observe the feeling without allowing it to define you. That small pause may seem insignificant, but it is where true freedom begins. Between what happens to you and how you respond lies a space. Buddhist practice expands that space until wisdom, rather than habit, guides your life. The ancient masters often said that you cannot stop birds from flying over your head, but you can stop them from building a nest there. Thoughts will always come. Emotions will always visit. Challenges will always arise. Inner freedom is not the absence of these experiences. It is the ability to welcome them without becoming imprisoned by them. When you stop identifying with every passing thought, something beautiful happens. You begin to realize that your awareness is far larger than your fears. Your peace is deeper than your anxiety. Your true nature is more stable than any temporary emotion. This understanding slowly transforms ordinary moments into opportunities for awakening. Waiting in traffic becomes an opportunity to practice patience. A disagreement becomes an opportunity to practice compassion. Failure becomes an opportunity to practice humility. Loneliness becomes an opportunity to discover your own company. Nothing in your external life may have changed, yet everything begins to feel different because your way of seeing has changed. Perhaps this is why the wisest monks often appear so peaceful. It is not because they have escaped difficulty. It is because they have learned not to fight every wave that passes through the ocean of the mind. And once you begin to understand this, another question naturally appears. If peace has always been available beneath the noise of the mind, what is the final obstacle preventing us from experiencing it fully? The answer is both simple and deeply challenging: our attachment to the illusion of control. The desire for control is one of the most subtle attachments the human mind creates. Unlike attachment to money or possessions, it often disguises itself as responsibility, intelligence, or careful planning. We tell ourselves that if we think hard enough, prepare well enough, or worry long enough, we can protect ourselves from pain. But life has never made such a promise. No matter how carefully you plan, unexpected events will still arrive. No matter how deeply you love someone, one day circumstances may separate you. No matter how healthy you become, your body will continue to change. No matter how successful you are, every achievement will eventually belong to the past. This truth can sound frightening at first, yet Buddhist wisdom invites us to see it differently. The problem is not that life is uncertain. The problem is believing that certainty was ever possible. Imagine standing on the shore, trying to stop the ocean waves with your hands. Every wave that reaches your feet feels like a personal failure because reality refuses to obey your expectations. Eventually you become exhausted, not because the ocean is cruel, but because you have chosen an impossible task. Many of us live exactly this way. We try to control what other people think of us. We try to control how quickly success arrives. We try to control the future. We try to control aging. We try to control every outcome. And when life follows its own rhythm instead of ours, frustration grows. The Buddha never taught that we should become passive or careless. Instead, he encouraged a different kind of mastery, the mastery of our own response. There is an old saying often shared among Buddhist teachers: you may not be able to stop the rain, but you can decide whether to carry an umbrella. The weather is not yours to command. Your response is, someone may insult you. You cannot erase their words. But you can decide whether those words become part of your identity. Someone may reject you. You cannot force them to stay. But you can choose not to reject yourself because they left. A dream may not unfold exactly as you imagined. You cannot rewrite yesterday. But you can meet today with wisdom instead of bitterness. This is where true power begins. The world often teaches that power means controlling others, accumulating wealth, or influencing circumstances. Buddhist philosophy offers a radically different definition. The strongest person is not the one who controls the outside world, but the one who is no longer controlled by it. Think about the people who upset you the most. Perhaps they ignored you. Perhaps they criticized you. Perhaps they betrayed your trust. Notice what happened inside your mind afterward. Did you replay the conversation over and over? Did you imagine what you should have said? Did you carry the weight of that moment for days, weeks, or even years? If so, ask yourself a gentle question. Who has been carrying the burden all this time? Very often, the other person has already moved on with their life. Yet we continue reliving the experience, giving it fresh energy every single day. In this way, suffering becomes self-renewing, not because reality keeps hurting us, but because memory keeps reopening the wound. This is why forgiveness occupies such an important place within Buddhist practice. Forgiveness is frequently misunderstood. It does not mean pretending that harmful actions were acceptable. It does not mean allowing others to continue causing harm. Instead, forgiveness is the decision to stop carrying a burning coal in the hope that someone else will be burned by it. The resentment you refuse to release becomes the prison you continue to inhabit. When you finally let go, something unexpected happens. The person you free is not the one who hurt you. It is yourself. For this reason, many Buddhist monks begin and end each day with a quiet reflection. They ask themselves simple questions. What did I cling to today? What fear guided my decisions? What expectation disturbed my peace? What can I release before I sleep? Imagine how different your life could become if, every evening, instead of collecting new worries, you gently place them down one by one. Not because every problem has been solved, but because you recognize that carrying them endlessly has never solved them either. The more deeply you practice letting go, the more you begin to notice an extraordinary paradox. Nothing outside you has become more permanent. The world remains uncertain. People still change. Life still surprises you. Yet inside, an unshakable stability slowly begins to grow. It is not the stability of controlling life. It is the stability of no longer needing to. And perhaps, this is the greatest freedom the Buddha pointed toward, not a life without storms, but a mind that has learned how to remain peaceful even while the winds continue to blow. As the years passed, the young seeker returned once more to the tree where he had first met the old monk. The same gentle breeze moved through the leaves. The same quiet silence filled the air, yet everything felt different, not because the place had changed, but because he had. He no longer walked with the desperate urgency of someone trying to escape himself. His steps were slower. His breathing was calmer. His eyes noticed things they had once overlooked. For the first time, he understood that wisdom is not measured by how much knowledge you collect, but by how much unnecessary suffering you release. The old monk smiled as if he had been expecting him. Without asking a single question, he handed the young man a small clay cup and invited him to sit beside a stream. The cup was empty. "Fill it," the monk said. The young seeker dipped the cup into the flowing water until it reached the brim. "Now," the monk continued, "keep adding more." "I can't," the young man replied. "It's already full." The monk nodded gently. So is the mind of someone who believes they already know who they are. The young seeker looked at the water overflowing from the cup. The monk continued, "Many people spend their lives protecting an identity they created years ago. I am this kind of person. I could never change. This is just how life is. I will always be anxious. I will always be unhappy." Without realizing it, they imprison themselves inside these invisible conclusions. Buddhist wisdom teaches that everything is constantly changing. Not only the seasons, not only the body, not only the world. You are changing in every single moment. The person you were 5 years ago no longer exists. Even the person you were this morning is already becoming a memory. If everything is changing, why do we insist on carrying identities that no longer serve us? This is where true liberation begins. Not by becoming someone else, but by allowing yourself to stop being who suffering convinced you that you had to remain. So many people introduce themselves through their pain. I am an anxious person. I am broken. I am unlucky. I am a victim. These sentences seem harmless, yet every repetition strengthens the prison. Notice the difference between these two statements. I feel anxious. I am anxiety. One describes an experience. The other creates an identity. The Buddha encouraged his students to observe every experience without turning it into the definition of the self. Sadness comes. Sadness goes. Fear comes. Fear goes. Joy comes. Joy goes. Even confidence rises and falls. If every experience appears and disappears, then who is the one quietly witnessing all of them? This question cannot be answered only with words. It must be experienced. Imagine sitting beneath the night sky. Clouds drift across the moon. Some are bright. Some are dark. Some move quickly. Others remain for a while. Yet none of them ever become the sky itself. Your thoughts are the clouds. Your awareness is the sky. The clouds may hide the moon for a moment, but they never remove it. Likewise, fear may hide your peace, but it cannot destroy it. Anger may cover your compassion, but it cannot erase it. Confusion may obscure your wisdom, but wisdom patiently remains beneath the surface, waiting for the mind to become still enough to see it again. This is why Buddhist practice is filled with patience. Modern life teaches us to expect immediate results, instant answers, instant success, instant happiness. But nature follows a different rhythm. A seed does not become a tree overnight. A river does not carve a canyon in a single day. The lotus flower does not bloom the moment it touches the water. Growth happens quietly, almost invisibly. The same is true for inner transformation. Some days you will feel peaceful. Other days your old habits will return. Some mornings meditation will feel effortless. Other mornings your mind will refuse to settle. Do not mistake these moments for failure. Even experienced monks continue practicing every day. Not because they have failed, but because awakening is not a destination you reach once. It is a way of meeting each new moment with awareness. Every breath is another beginning. Every sunrise offers another opportunity to let go. Every conversation becomes another chance to practice compassion. Every challenge becomes another invitation to choose wisdom instead of habit. Perhaps this is why the Buddha's teachings have survived for more than 2,000 years. Not because they promise a perfect life, but because they reveal a peaceful way of living within an imperfect one. And if you remember only one lesson from everything you've heard today, let it be this: peace is not something the world gives you. It is something the world can no longer take away once you discover where it truly lives. That place has never been hidden in distant mountains. It has never belonged only to monks. It has never required wealth, status, or extraordinary talent. It has always existed quietly within you, waiting for the moment you stop searching everywhere else and finally turn inward. There is one final truth that the old monk wanted the young seeker to understand, and perhaps it is the most important lesson of all. One evening, as the sun slowly disappeared behind the mountains, the monk asked him a simple question. If everything you own disappeared tomorrow, who would you be? The young seeker remained silent. The monk continued. If everyone praised you today and criticized you tomorrow, who would you be? Again, there was no answer. And if every title, every success, every failure, every memory, and every expectation vanished, what would remain? The silence that followed was unlike any silence the young seeker had ever experienced. It was not empty, it was alive. For the first time, he realized that he had spent most of his life answering the question, "What do I have?" instead of asking, "Who am I?" without all of it. This question is just as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. Our modern world constantly encourages us to define ourselves by what we possess. Your career, your income, your appearance, your social status, your achievements, your followers, your possessions. But Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us that anything which can be gained can also be lost. If your identity depends on something temporary, then your peace will always be temporary as well. This does not mean you should reject success or abandon your dreams. Instead, it means learning to enjoy them without allowing them to define your worth. A flower blooms beautifully, knowing it will one day fade. A tree gives its fruit without demanding anything in return. The river continues flowing without worrying about where it will end. Nature does not resist its own impermanence. It simply lives. Perhaps this is why spending time in nature has always been such an important part of Buddhist practice. When you sit quietly beneath a tree, you begin to notice something extraordinary. The tree does not compare itself with the mountain. The mountain does not envy the river. The river does not compete with the clouds. Everything simply fulfills its own nature. Only the human mind creates endless comparison. Only the human mind whispers, "I should be further ahead. I should be more successful. I should look like them. I should have achieved more by now." These invisible comparisons quietly steal the joy of the present moment. The Buddha understood that comparison is another form of attachment. It attaches us to an imagined version of life that does not exist. The more we compare, the less grateful we become. The less grateful we become, the more restless the mind grows. And the more restless the mind becomes, the harder it is to recognize the peace that has always been available. Gratitude, therefore, is not merely a pleasant emotion, it is a spiritual practice. When you sincerely appreciate this moment exactly as it is, desire begins to loosen its grip, fear begins to soften, contentment quietly enters. This does not happen because your circumstances suddenly become perfect. It happens because your attention finally returns to what has always been enough. Take a moment now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. Notice your breathing. Notice the gentle rhythm of your heartbeat. Notice that, in this very moment, life is happening without asking you to control every detail. There is a profound freedom in recognizing that you can participate fully in life without needing to possess it. You can love without clinging. You can work without becoming consumed by ambition. You can dream without fearing failure. You can serve others without expecting recognition. You can experience joy without worrying about how long it will last. This is what inner freedom truly looks like. It is quiet. It is steady. It does not need applause. It does not seek validation. It simply exists, like the calm center of a great mountain, while storms move across its peaks. If today's message has touched something within you, take a moment to subscribe to Buddhist wisdom and become part of a community dedicated to timeless teachings, mindful living, and inner transformation. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Write these simple words. Today, I choose freedom. Those 4 words may seem small, but every great journey begins with a single conscious step. Remember, peace is not waiting for you at the end of your life. It is waiting at the end of your resistance. The freedom you seek is not hidden in another country, another relationship, another achievement, or another version of yourself. It is found in this breath, this moment, this awareness. The Buddha never promised that life would become free of pain. He showed that it could become free of unnecessary suffering. And that changes everything. So as you leave this video and return to your daily life, carry this wisdom with you. Walk a little more slowly. Listen a little more deeply. Judge a little less. Forgive a little sooner. Hold on a little more lightly. And trust that every moment you choose awareness over habit, compassion over anger, and presence over distraction, you are already walking the path toward inner freedom. May your mind become clear. May your heart become light. May your life be guided by wisdom. And may you always remember that the greatest journey you will ever take is not across the world. It is the quiet journey back to yourself.